Hi everyone, I'm Mary with Mary Greeley News. Thank you for joining me. Well, evidently Chicago is the latest city to establish emergency travel order. Starting Monday at 12:01 a.m., people coming from certain states will be under mandatory quarantine. Individuals subject to the order must not be in public or otherwise leave their dwellings unless seeking medical care. That means not even going outside to acquire food. Anything that you may need has to be delivered. Now, if you have to go to a doctor, that is allowed. And if you're considered an essential worker, you're allowed to leave. On July 2nd of this year, the city of Chicago issued a public health order, 2010, which requires people entering the city of Chicago from certain states to self-quarantine for a period of 14 days. Those states include Alabama, Arkansas, Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, Nevada, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Utah. Here it says the list will be updated each Tuesday starting July 14th. Individuals who violate this order will be subject to fines of $100 to $500 per day, up to $7,000. Massachusetts has put in place the same quarantine. According to another article, Massachusetts has revised its travel restrictions. Travelers from New England states, New York, and New Jersey are no longer required to follow the self-quarantine directive. But in this article it says Bay States residents will still have to self-quarantine if they've traveled outside of the 7 exempt states. Massachusetts is currently in Phase 2, Step 2 of its reopening plan. Phase 3 will start no earlier than July 6th, though that date has not yet been announced. Now, on the New York Governor website, it says the Commission, the Department of Health, has issued a travel advisory to be communicated widely at all major ports of entry into New York, including on highway, message boards, and in all New York airports, that all travelers entering New York from a state with a positive test rate higher than 10 per 100,000 residents, or higher than 10% positive rate over a 7-day rolling average, will be required to quarantine for a period of 14 days. Now, in New York, it says the penalty for violating this order is up to $10,000 fine. And supposedly, there in Chicago, they will not be targeting out-of-state plates or creating a list of travelers. It says the order is aimed at discouraging non-essential travel. Maybe they're going to depend on the neighbors to report someone who has violated these orders in these 3 cities, or states actually. Now it also says for Chicago, it has a case rate, states that will be designated to have 15 new COVID cases per 100,000. So they got 15, while New York has 10. And just like New York, Chicago's going to use signage on highways and at airports, and will work with airlines to notify travelers of the order. I suppose that would be bus stations as well. Now, there was another Twitter post that says Massachusetts reporting 0 coronavirus-related deaths on Tuesday. It is the first time this has happened in months. Today's Friday, so I don't know what's happened since then. Another Twitter post, now this one mentions New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. It said this new quarantine had just earned Tennesseans a 14-day quarantine. On the Massachusetts.gov website, it says a number of states have issued travel restrictions. The situation is rapidly changing. For travel information, please visit www.travel.state.gov. All travelers arriving to Massachusetts, including Massachusetts residents returning home, are instructed to self-quarantine for 14 days. except that beginning July 1st, 2020, travelers from Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, New York, and New Jersey arriving in Massachusetts are exempt from this directive and need not self-quarantine for 14 days. But when you go to the website, they want you to enroll in the program, it looks like, before you can get any information. There was a rumor going around that they were shutting down the interstates and freeways and highways. I have not been able to confirm that anywhere. As far as I can tell, that's fake news. Here it says Massachusetts and Rhode Island residents visiting Maine still need to be quarantined or present a negative test. So yes, in theory, someone from Trenton, New Jersey can come to Maine restriction-free, but someone from Newburyport, Massachusetts cannot. You know, at first during the pandemic, many people were either just leaving their packages and mail sit for a few days before opening them, or they were spraying them with disinfectant. And a lot of people have stopped doing this. I found this tweet, and I thought it was interesting, because remember, the coronavirus, you know, in the beginning days, they were saying could remain alive on packages, and it depended a lot on the humidity. Don't really hear anything about that anymore, but here at Thoreau Public Library, it says, the boys would like to remind you that items returned in our book drop will be quarantined for several days before check-in. You will not be fined for these additional days. Busy says the correct way to say this is they will be self-isolating in a bubble of quarantine phase 2. And you know, there's some stuffed animals here with masks on. I know everyone is getting really tired of this quarantine as it carries on for months and months at a time. Well, it's never going to go away. We're not going to have a vaccine until possibly the middle of next year. And that vaccine only depends upon if it does not mutate. And I've heard reports that it's mutating. So, this virus is actually never going to go away until everybody has been exposed. And I mean everybody in the entire world has been exposed and developed the antibodies for the coronavirus. And evidently the UK has revised its list of countries coming in there that are under quarantine. The US and China are still on that list, where 59 other countries are now exempt. I'm sure there's going to be more cities and states that are going to mandate more quarantines as they continue to lift closures for different areas. I think what they're trying to do is just keep the trend of those contracting the coronavirus at a certain level, so that way the hospitals aren't overwhelmed. So what are your thoughts? Put your comments down below. Thank you for subscribing. I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Patreon if you want to support my work. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless y'all.